Okay. Okay. We're going to get started with the next session, so everybody rush to their seats, so to speak. We had a very interesting session, the last one. I thought that was kind of interesting. So if everybody can have a seat, and then we'll get started. So my name is Chuck Mallory, and I am the Director of Strategic Accounts for North America Automotive segment. And it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, who is Stefan Balkowiec. He is the Director of Automotive Solutions for Harman Connect. And Harman is a big QT user. They're close to my heart. So I would like to give him the time to introduce him. It's Stefan Balkowiec.
Hi, thanks Chuck for the introduction. Yeah, my name's Stef Balkowiec. I'm looking after solutions for automotive in Harman connected vehicle, connected services. And what I want to talk to you about today is the model, explore a model that we think is important in breaking down the barriers between designers, developers, and the tier ones. So we've got to allow them and empower the OEMs to own their own HMI. But before we do that, let's just take a look at where's the dashboard come from. And it started off with just a very simple HMI where you've got push buttons and analog dials. It wasn't until the advent of navigation was one of the paradigm shifts where the display and software starts becoming having a role, and HMI starts having a role within the cockpit. This has evolved now to you've got the cluster, you've got the rear seat entertainment, you've got the center stack. All of this requires some level of integration and a user experience that the end consumer is really expecting, has got high expectations. So we've actually done a proof of concept last year at CES. Together we partnered up with Rinspeed to explore what does it mean to have a car in the future where you've got autonomous vehicles being one of the key drivers we feel that's going to change and revolutionize what's happening inside the car. So I talked a little bit about there's market forces coming from consumer electronics. There's the iPhone and Android generation. They're expecting their expectations are much higher. It's no longer good enough for the manufacturers just to have one software update maybe per year and having a single configuration of that software to address all the different market segments. The consumer's expecting their HMI to evolve and their user experience to evolve together with the ownership of that vehicle. And ownership, talking about ownership, well, ownership models are now changing as well. So you've got, no longer is it important, or the emphasis is no longer on alloy wheels, leather seats. These are almost commodities within the auto industry today. So how does the OEM differentiate? It's about the user experience inside the car. And when I first, because I've come from the consumer electronics industry, but when I joined OnStar in 2000, we were down in terms of, we were number 10 or 8 or 10 in terms of priority of what's important during the purchasing time or process. Now you look at the latest reports, it's probably the second or third. It's just become the most important. So there's a recent Nielsen report, and it shows that technology, trends, safety, and user experience is just shot up in terms of expectations. So why does it take so long to develop? You've got the OEM design team normally, and they build a specification of what they want to build in terms of the concept designs. That's thrown over the fence to an engineering team that builds a technical specification that's then thrown over the fence to the tier one. And do the three parties necessarily talk to each other? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And then this process just takes time. Normally a 2-year period of time. So after 2 years, the design teams moved on to the next concept, and then you got the change request merry-go-round that I'm sure nobody in the room's experienced. But this is so what you need to do is to find a way of breaking down these barriers and work in a collaborative manner. So that's across the OEM design and engineering teams, as well as the actual implementation teams that we're getting from, with the tier ones. The other challenge is the cycle takes 7 years. And well, why is it so hard to integrate? Well, why does it take so long? So 9 out of 10 times, each OEM sources their software and their hardware platform over and over again. So they end up retesting all of their hardware and software over and over again. So, I mean, once you've developed a Bluetooth capability, but you change your supplier who's got a different tool chain, you all of a sudden have to retest it. So everyone in the industry is going around retesting capabilities over and over again instead of innovating. And this is one of the areas that we would like to make a change. So provide an SDK that is that allows people to innovate on. And every industry goes through. It has an aha moment. And it happened to the mobile industry in 2005. So Apple wanted to enter into the mobile space, and they launched together with Motorola the E100. Some people may remember it, and it was an absolute disaster. It was the worst, probably Apple product that was ever made. And why was it? Because the Apple team didn't have control of HMI, the software, the hardware, and the platform didn't have the CPU power, enough memory, and the user experience was limited because Apple didn't own the platform. So they rolled it back. Within 6 months, it was off the market. And Steve Jobs realized he needs to, if he wants to change the mobile ecosystem, he needs to own the complete stack. And that's basically, well, we know what happened after that. So I believe there is a moment in time within the auto industry that we're on the cusp of a similar type of paradigm shift when it comes to autonomous vehicles. And that user experience being coined the 4th or 5th display is in fact an extension of the living room, and it's going to be more akin to the user experience you get, say, for in-flight entertainment. But I hear you say, well, okay, that's all well and good. Apple's got heaps of money to throw it in a huge amount of volume and a huge ecosystem. What about the auto industry? Surely it's a double-edged sword. You've got a huge amount of investment required to manage the software branches, the software updates, maintaining the development tool chain. It's going to constantly evolve with features. So is there something that the OEM could leverage but still have the flexibility to have that ownership model? We believe there is. So there's what do you need in a HMI platform? It's a developer kit that needs to be maintained and up to date and extended as new features and technologies become available. The tool chain has to have the ability to provide the designers and engineers to collaborate and innovate freely. And then the ecosystem needs to provide the OEMs the ability for third-party and public developers. So there's also the client itself. So there's been a lot of discussions about multi-display capability, and there's also the multi-brand capability. So a lot of the OEMs are requiring a multi-brand and multi-display solution. So I'm going to focus on the framework and the client first. And following the model view controller approach, you need to ensure that you've got the right abstraction between services, logics, and graphics. And the view describes it's a stack of screens within the HMI application layer, and each application is delivered as a separate package, so it gives you that flexibility. The model and the views are uploaded into the HMI process. The GUI presentation layer, which is the controller using Qt or C++, allows the HMI applications to be attached to the separate background process. And this allows you to rebrand your HMI but remain and retain the same business logic because you've introduced, you're using the same code base. And it's the most efficient way, we feel, to manage multiple brands and simplify configuration of different display variants, be it size of displays or branding. So it's about having a single business logic but supporting multiple HMI capability. Then there's the multi-screen solution. So as we move on, we've got the center display and the rear seat entertainment. This is a classical use case that's been shown. And what we've created is a HMI server that acts effectively like an abstraction layer and a common data bus across for all of the applications. And this synchronizes all of the HMI processes running within the application and allows to change global settings like language, units, screens, across all screens, and comfort controls. And this type of technology lends itself extremely well then for a single SoC, so a single chip solution, and a hypervisor. So that's the next topic I'm going to talk about, where we feel if we want a full integrated cluster, fully integrated experience in the car, you've got to include the cluster. Now, the cluster's got a heap of safety requirements that need to be met, but we feel that there is a way around this in having a centralized, using this central HMI server that synchronizes content and data across the screens. It allows you to swipe content from one screen to another. And we're using TCP and EAVB technologies to communicate from the central server across to the other domains. And it provides the abstraction that's required and the partitioning that's required for safety, but then you've got still that complete user experience in the vehicle. So that's the client. So I'm going to move on quickly to the simulation. So with this, there's a simulation tool we feel is immensely important. So as you've got these screens, you want to be able to remotely control and build automated test suites as part of this rapid development cycle. I'm going to talk about the cycle, the tool chain in a minute. We want to allow the teams to build pixel-perfect animations, and we want to allow the designers to develop and interact and at a functional level so that you don't have to throw these specifications over the wall each time. So here's an example of where you've got the simulation, and this is the wonderful thing of Qt, that you can what you get from the simulator you really have on the client itself. It's an extremely powerful tool. So I'm going to move on to the HMI SDK, and it's based on Qt Creator, and we've built in functional design elements like buttons, keyboards, number pads, swipe controls. So you get all this capability out of the box, allowing to designers and developers to quickly start interacting and quickly start prototyping. You have the code generation, and obviously it's all based around the hugely powerful Qt Creator. In addition to that, we've taken other industry-known technologies like Doors, Enterprise Architect, and Azure to feed the tool chain and make it as smooth as possible, taking requirements all the way through to the final product. And each process goes through a configuration management. Each process is linked. And this allows the teams to work with an agile Scrum methods to complete a complete cycle, and not instead of having to constantly focus on building out specifications. So I'm going to run you quickly through this cycle, and by all means come around and we can talk about in more detail. There's a lot more detail in here than in terms of the process and the tools that we're developing here. But in essence, we've got the HMI requirements. We're using Doors. It's an industry, there's no surprises. It allows you to take the epics and plug them into a configuration management tool. Breaking down, the next stage would be the state, documenting the state machine, and before you start committing to the HMI itself. And the way we've done this is using Enterprise Architect. We've built extensions to Enterprise Architect to link it to Doors, and so that you've got requirements management and requirements continuity and traceability. Next one is Azure RP. There are other solutions out there. We've chosen Azure simply because you could extend it again. You can take the UML model and through the requirements management tool, link the user flow that you're designing in Azure, that then allows you to build out the sequence diagrams and dedicated features, and have it all linked into the original requirements that you've set out. And finally, within Azure, we've got the graphic creations, the wireframes. So we're building out the user experience and the wireframes at its raw level. I know you can do this in Qt as Qt Creator as well. We've chosen, for the sake of continuity, because of the user flow, Azure RP. And then finally, all of this is fed into, and there's the whole adding the graphics, because you've done all of your state modeling up front. You can directly go into the simulation. So this process, through features and functions, can go through these 2-week cycles that you expect within the Scrum team. And then finally, you've got Jenkins. Again, other solutions are available to allow you to continuous build. So once you've built your simulations, you've done your testing, you can now go towards a target and do final testing. And the great thing about Jenkins, it's fantastic in terms of applying localization and configuration management. So that's one of the reasons why we've chosen it. So each process, we're taking the best tools that we feel are out in the market, building a process and building out extensions and hooks to link these technologies together. Qt Creator is one of the key ones for it to be successful. Without it, none of this would work. And we feel it's just one of the, it's going to give the OEMs the opportunity to control the HMI and to collaborate with Harman and tier ones to instead of having to start from scratch each time. And yeah, so we feel this is a big step forward. We want to collaborate at a closer rate to reduce these time to markets, to address what the consumer electronics are asking, the consumer teams, consumer electronic markets asking and requesting and expecting. And so we're providing this out-of-the-box solution. It comprises of the client and the tool chain and the services supporting it. finally, I encourage you and to come down and have a look at our demo booth. We're downstairs in the corner over there, and we'll be very happy to discuss further with you.
Thank you, Stefan. So we have a little bit of time left for some questions. Anybody have a question? Questions? Oh, really?
Was it that good? Surely not.
Well, if there's no additional questions, just a couple points. If you'd like to find out some more information or have some questions about Qt in question, I have left my business cards, a stack of my business cards up on the podium. I'm not going to force myself upon you. And I want to thank you for attending. Stefan, thanks again. Don't take off. We've got a book that we want to give you in appreciation.
Okay.
Anything else? I'll let you go a little early. Thank you so much for attending.